Well, good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining us. We're excited to have you here and excited to hear more from Courtney this morning. And we're going to wait for her to jump on here. But the topics this morning, Courtney's going to review the ideas that she's been talking about with control and kind of those mindset ideas. And morning, Court.
Hey, guys.
I was just saying, you're going to talk to us, recap a little bit about some of the ideas around control that we had heard from you earlier, and then talk about creating a vision and setting goals. And as always, we're going to have you, those that are attending, we're going to have you ask questions through the question and answer. If there's a question there that looks a lot like your question, be sure to upvote that question, because that's kind of how we prioritize the questions that Courtney is going to answer are the ones that seem to be the most common. So if you have a question, by all means, type it out in our Q&A box there. And then the ones that kind of have the most upvotes are the ones that we'll get to earliest in the process. And the session today is going to last about an hour. And we'll have about 20 minutes of material from Courtney, and then the rest of the time to answer your questions, which we're looking forward to. And then finally, just another reminder, a lot of the questions that came to Courtney last week were around exercising and nutrition in a time when we're kind of down. And so we've worked with Mitch Sadowski. He's strength and conditioning trainer out of Miami, Florida, and he's put together a series of 10 videos or exercises that he's going to recommend to you, and look for that next week. We'll release that and then have a Q&A with Mitch as he talks about exercise and strength, and we'll have some registered dietitians and nutritionists consulting with us on that as well. So we'll have that for you next week. So be sure to look for that. But Court, we'll turn it over to you and get you going here.
Thanks, Chris. Dave, thanks for setting this up. Good morning, everybody. I'm super fired up to be here today. We had so much fun in our last session, so if you're joining us again, thanks for coming back. And, you know, Gold Medal Squared, all of us are just really fired up about trying to get better in any way possible. And obviously right now there's, you know, we're not training with our teams. We can't go to the gym and all that stuff. So today's really about doing what we can to help move the needle and to help everybody on this call today get a little bit better. And we're going to kind of dive into training mindset. So as a refresher, for those of you that were with us last time, this is kind of how we think about it. There's 3 things we can train as a human if we're really wanting to like be our absolute best. We can train our craft, which is how we train technique when we're in the gym. We can train our body when we're doing plyos or those exercises that Chris was talking about when we go to the gym. And we can also train our mind. And in the same way that we wouldn't get stronger, if I taught you how to squat and you understood it and you did it once, but you didn't do it every day, you wouldn't actually get stronger. And mindset training is no different. So we're going to talk about some concepts and then hopefully come up with really tangible ways that we can train our mind every day to be present more often. And as athletes, you know, when we're playing our best, we are fully absorbed in the moment, and it's so much fun, and we're playing our best. And so that's really what we're working towards. Like, what are ways that we can train our mind to be present more often, knowing that our brain is kind of designed to get in our way a little bit, often in the moments that we care about the most. So that being said, before I dive into today, we're going to talk about goals and vision and being able, you know, tools to help us stay in things that are really difficult. But I want to review kind of what we covered last week. So if you're here and you were here last week, I want to hear from you guys. You can write it in the chat box, but let me know, how did it go last week training control? And we talked about 3 ways that we could train control. And I want to hear from you if you guys tried any. We talked about a morning mindset routine, you know, where we could really, instead of just waking up and looking at our phone really quick, we can take 30 seconds to decide kind of how we want to show up in the day. We can make a T-chart of things that are within our control, things that are outside of our control, and, you know, as an exercise of kind of letting go things that are outside of our control. And then we can choose 2 controllables before an activity, whether it's time with your family or I'm going into training or practice. Those are the 3 ways we kind of talked about refocusing and training our mind to focus on what's within our control. All right, we got some morning mindset. I like it. Good job, guys, putting the cell phone down. Ooh, I like that. Ashley, writing her questions on the mirror. What am I grateful for? How will I show up today? Whitney, nice work getting after it. All right. Dave, I don't know if you saw Gerald's comment about the link. We'll check on that, Gerald. Thanks for letting us know. All right, guys. Morning mindset routine. Are there any questions as far as training control? Nice work getting after it, you guys. All right. So I like it. You guys are committing to this, you know, and as I said before, I don't think training mindset needs to take hours in a day, but really like these really simple check-ins we can do that are sometimes like, 30 seconds, 2 minutes long can make a huge impact on our day. So I love this idea about choosing in the morning, kind of like how you want to show up, how you want to engage with the day. And I'm fascinated by, what keeps people from being intentional. So a lot of people, it's really easy to say like, I want to win state, or I want to get a scholarship, I want to whatever. But everyone says that at the beginning of the year. And then there's this fallout of people that are really committed to pursuing what they want. And those that kind of let things slide or stop really doing everything they can to get there. And so when I think about what keeps people from being intentional, I think it's fatigue. It's hard to stay disciplined when we're really tired, which is why recovery is so important if we really want to be our best. I think fear, or if we're anxious about, well, what if we don't get what we want? What if this happens? What if this happens? Or if you've tried hard and you don't get the result. So fear can get in our way as well. And then the third one, I think, is we can be so in the day-to-day of our lives that sometimes we forget to take like a minute to really consider the big picture and what we really want moving forward. And maybe it's changed, maybe it's shifted. And so in regard, I think it's a nice tie-in from what we talked about last week of control, that I want to use this time, because we have all the time in the world right now, don't we, here in quarantine, to recalibrate, to refocus on some goals, and really decide kind of for this next year, now that things have changed, likely your season's changed or it's been taken away completely, and there's still a lot of unknowns. But even with that, what are some goals that we can set today that's going to help us move towards what we want most? And then what's the difference between a goal and a vision? And so that's really what today is all about. And I want to talk about goals in a timeline from now until like December, right? So when I'm talking about, hey, let's make these kind of goals, it's about 8 months from now till December. Knowing what we know now and knowing that there's unknowns, what are some goals we can have? And there's two. Well, there's a lot of different kind of goals, but two I'm going to talk about today are outcome goals and process goals. And neither one are bad, neither one are good. I think it's important to just kind of know the strength and weakness of both. And so we're going to start with outcome goals, and then we're going to make process goals that kind of lead into that. And as we talked about last week with control, if I'm overly focused on an outcome, right? So let's say I want to win a state title, right? That is outside of our, it's not 100% within our control if we can make that happen, right? Winning and losing, outcomes, playing time, if you make the team or not, all of these things, although we can influence, at the end of the day are somewhat outside of our control. And so the challenge, if we just make an outcome goal and we stay really focused on that, is that if we're overly consumed with getting that goal, there's like an anxiety that can come with it, right? Sometimes it's motivating, which is great. But if that's the only reason we're kind of investing, or we're basing all of our success in that goal, there's a huge cost to that. It can be really constricting, because, oh my gosh, what if I don't get this? I've worked so hard all year, to get to this point, and now I'm in the state final. This is it. This is the moment. And all of a sudden we make moments start to feel really, really big, right? The other cost to having an outcome goal is that, I don't know if you guys have ever reached a goal, or you've said you've wanted something and you've worked so hard to get it, but the whole time you got it, you were focused on like that future moment. So then when you actually got the goal, it almost felt like relief, you know, like, oh man, thank God that's over. Or like, oh, thank God we won. And then what do we do as humans? We just set the next one. Okay, so now the next goal is this. So we're kind of on something the research would call like a hedonic treadmill, where we're always consumed with what's next instead of where we are right now. And so although outcome goals can be really motivating in like short durations, if it's the only thing we're focused on, sometimes one, it can cause us to be anxious, and two, it takes us out of experiencing the moment we are now. And think about like if we were living our life and we're never present in this moment, like we're always thinking about the future, or we're always thinking about what happened or what didn't happen in the past, we're missing like all these moments. And when you're playing your best, and likely when you're having the most fun, or if I were to ask you like the 3 best moments of your life, inside volleyball, outside of volleyball, whatever, I'm guessing that it was a moment when you were completely absorbed in the now, in the present, because that's where excellence takes place, right? So when we're competing and when we're not. And so we want to set these outcome goals and use them because they can be motivating and they're fun. And like, who doesn't want to win a state title? Who doesn't want to make varsity? Who, you know, yeah, sure. Let's try to get a college scholarship. That's awesome. But then let's also have these process goals that are, and this is where it ties into control. Process goals are something that are 100% within our control to do, right? And so if I can, at the end of the day, say, hey, my outcome is to make varsity, right? And that's going to happen this fall, hopefully. And my process goal to do that would look like this. What can I do this week? What can I do every single week? What are 2 things I can do every week to move towards getting this outcome goal? And then at the end of the week, how do we measure success? Is we look at these goals and we say, hey, did I do everything I can? Was my process true? Did I really commit to what I can control? And then I can find, you know, some joy in that. And I can find, okay, cool. And I also can kind of let it go, you know, and if it's purely just outcome, then it's kind of like, did I do enough? What could I do more? Blah, blah, blah. And that can be a trap as well. And so that's really what we're going to dive into today. So I want you to go ahead and grab your pen and paper. If you don't have that, grab a phone or use your computer, something you can take a note on. And I want you to think about this question of, okay, so we're talking about from now till December, we're going to set an outcome goal. And I want you to think about it in this way, not what's probable, not what's likely. I want you to think about if everything went right for you, like really like best case scenario. If you could write the best story about your life from now till December, what would that look like? And what is one outcome goal or two, one or two, one goal that you have from now until December? So go ahead, I'll give you, I don't know, 1 minute to kind of write that down. And if you want, you can share it here. You don't have to, but I think it'd be awesome to hear so we can cheer you on. Take about 60 seconds here. All right, so we got one outcome goal. I'm going to give you an example. Let's say my outcome goal is to make varsity. All right, so that's kind of an outcome goal. Let's see, we got some Libero of the Year. That's what all right. Be more fit. I like it. Recover from surgery and be able to compete. I like it. Stay connected with my team. Great. All right, so this is kind of like best case scenario, right? Outcome goal. And then I want you to take it. Now we're going to make two or three process goals that kind of like lead into that. So I want you to think of it in a week. In 1 week, you know, every week leading up to this, whenever this will happen for you, what are 2 or 3 things you could do weekly to help you move towards that goal that are 100% within your control? So I brainstormed some things. If my goal was to make varsity, my weekly process goals could be to watch video of the best college players in my state 3 times a week. for however long you're going to commit to. I'm going to work out 3 times a week, and I'm going to call a teammate twice a week. This is assuming that I can't practice, because we can't right now. So if I was practicing, it might be, hey, I'm going to get 10 minutes of extra reps every practice, which is 3 times a week, right? So these are 100% within your control, things that are helping you move towards this goal. I'll give you about 30 seconds here. What can you do every week? I like it. Hey, good questions, guys. Keep them coming in here as we go. All right, so now we've got an outcome goal, we've got a weekly goal, and then I want to make a daily goal, a daily process goal. So every single day, what are 2 things that you can do to help you move towards this outcome goal? So for me, if I'm trying to make varsity weekly, I'm watching video, I'm practicing if I can, getting extra reps 3 times a week, I'm working out 3 times a week. Those are very doable process goals. Now daily, I know that I'm going to be able to bring my best. I'm going to be able to work on my platform better if I'm well rested. So I'm going to commit to getting 8 hours of sleep a night. I'm going to do 1 physical and 1 mental workout a day, even if it's 2 minutes, right? So those are my daily process goals. All right, we got working out. Take a minute here to write every single day, kind of what you can do to help move that needle. And the key here is that we want these to be really specific. We want these to be measurable. We want these to be 100% within your control, right? So that's the whole idea here. Make nutrition a priority. So, hey, great example here. So what does that actually, let's be a little bit more specific. So make nutrition a priority. Does that mean that you're going to plan meals every day, or we can make that just a little bit more specific, so it's like very tangible, like I did this or I didn't. And with goals, we want to be able to check them off. You know, we want to say 100% I did this or I didn't. And if we don't do that, there's kind of this like gray area of vagueness to it. So the more specific, the more measurable, the better here. Robert, I like it. All right, so now we've got an outcome goal, we've got a weekly process goal, we've got a daily process goal. And now I wanna, this might be the most challenging part of this whole process, is I wanna create a vision. And so a vision is 1 step past the goal, right? So I want you to think about your outcome goal, like the big goal that we're talking about. And I wanna win state, or I wanna make varsity, or I wanna earn a college scholarship. Right? And we're able to say, yes, I did this, or no, I didn't do this. Now, a vision is 1 step past a goal. And by that, I mean, it's really the why behind, like, why is this goal worth pursuing? Why is this goal so meaningful to you? Or what about this goal is most meaningful to you? Is it about, you know what, I really want to find out like what's within me. I want to see how good I could be. I want to represent my family. I want to earn a scholarship so that I can create the life I want after, you know, earning a degree and having someone else pay for it. So I really want to anchor to the why, right? And what I've come to understand is that through experience is like goals are fun and they can be motivating. And it's, again, like winning is way better than losing, and we hit it. But as humans, we just keep setting the next one, right? And so goals will change, you know, and if let's say I want to win a state title and I don't, what's going to keep me coming back the next year? Or then what is my purpose then? And so if we set goals correctly, we're not going to hit all of them, right? Because goals are, in my opinion, if we're really trying to stretch and become our best, you know, it's likely like, dude, I don't know if I can hit this, but man, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun to try. And either way, I'm going to learn something from it. And there were many, many goals in my career that I didn't hit. Right? And so goals will change. How you go about pursuing your goals will change. If if I had a goal of winning a gold medal and we lost in the semifinals, you know? So at that point, now my only shot is to win a bronze medal. So my goal that I've been working for, you know, you could say for 20 years of my life, has now in one afternoon been taken away from me. So what keeps you motivated in that moment when the goal is no longer possible? And that's why we want to anchor to a vision. So if the vision is to represent my family on the world stage, wearing a flag that, you know, I come from a military family. A lot of my family has fought, you know, so that we could live in a country that's free and all that stuff. And so to get to represent them on the world stage and earn the right to wear a flag, that was meaningful to me. And so that doesn't change, even though I can't win a gold medal. I can still fight for a bronze medal, right? And keep pursuing my vision, even though the goal shifts. And so this might be kind of the most important part of this whole process, is anchoring to, like, why is this goal meaningful for you? Because goals will change, but the vision likely will never change. So let's take a minute or two to write down kind of what is your vision. What is the meaning behind pursuing these goals for yourself? Nathan, I like it. That's what I'm talking about. Another way, if this is a challenging question, could be to think about at the end of your, you know, the last game that you have as a high school athlete, or the last game you have as a club athlete, when you're walking off the court for the last time, what do you want to feel like in that moment? You know, what is most important to you in that moment? And that might help you shape kind of how you want to show up throughout the year. I like it, Emily. All right. All right, guys. So we got our outcome goal. We've got a weekly process goal. We've got daily, and then we really want to anchor to that vision. And so I would, one thing that helped me is that it's also, you know, you say you want to win a state title, and everyone, the beginning of the year, is like, yeah, let's do it. It's so fun. And then kind of, you know, halfway through the year, things are getting tough. Maybe you lost a few games, you're tired, school is going on. Like in those moments, I think it's really important to anchor to the why, you know, and when we can do that, it's going to help us kind of stay motivated and remind us of, like, this is worth it. And we knew it was going to be tough. This is what makes it so great when we actually get that payoff at the end, you know, or that we've given it everything we have. And so if you've articulated a vision for yourself today, I would offer that you make it visual, you know, visible. You put it somewhere where you see it every day. You share it with somebody else. This is how we train it. You find ways to remind yourself day to day, or like tap into that feeling of, like, dude, that is why it's worth it for me. And the more that we can make a habit of that, the more likely we are to stay focused on what's going to get us there. Yeah, some great examples, you guys. I like it. So anyway, that's all I wanted to dive into today. And Chris, we can open it up for Q&A.
Okay, sounds great. Right off the bat, I think Emma has a great question. Emma Hart says, what advice do you have for somebody that's gotten off track with their goals? What are some motivating words, sayings, things you can do that kind of re-engage you with your goals? And I would say probably let's address that at each stage, daily, weekly, long-term. Yeah. Outcome,
no,
process.
I kind of think, I'm curious, Chris, what you have to add, but to me, it's a fairly simple, like, you just simply begin again and, like, let go of any, like, oh, I should have done this, like, you know, any judgment that we're adding to it. We really can't change anything we did or didn't do. And often, like, when we're thinking about training or nutrition, I think this happens a lot, or fitness, or even like just getting reps in the gym. It's like, well, if I don't do 2 hours of practice, then I probably I'm not even gonna go. Or if I can't get a full workout in, I'm not even gonna go. What if you got 5 minutes? You know, what if you just, you know, right now you're at home alone and you're peppering by yourself. What if you did that for 5 minutes? Probably better than nothing, you know? And so what keeps people from starting again, I think, is being overwhelmed of all the things they didn't do. And so in my opinion, it's like, it's like taking it down to the daily goal, like what can I do today? And what's one thing, right? Like we don't have to like reset our whole life work to be like, I don't know, doing everything perfectly. We're never going to do anything perfectly. So it's like, okay, what can I do that's simple and doable today, and start moving in that direction. And then, life happens. So I remember thinking as a young athlete, like, oh, I didn't, and I was a little bit OCD when I was younger, but it was like, man, I bet Karch Karai never missed a workout. I bet the best athletes, I bet Olympians never ate pizza. I bet they never ate ice cream, like whatever. And you can think really black and white. And the reality is that we're all human and we're all in that. So when you slip or when you get off track, without judgment, just come back and start over and over and over again, however many times it takes. And I think that's the best way to deal with it.
All right. Great. Court, just to add a little bit to that, some of the best athletes that I see, the highest performers, hold these two ideas in their head at the same time. They have incredibly high standards for themselves, so that kind of keeps pushing them all the time. But at the same time, they have this ability to kind of be highly forgiving of the times when they don't meet the standards. And it's, hey, I've got this high standard for myself, but I'm also gentle on myself if, hey, I didn't get there today. And it's exactly what you said. They are able to forgive those, kind of slips and those, just, hey, I had a bad day. And everybody has bad days. Everybody has bad days. And it's exactly what you described. The best in the world have bad days and they don't meet their goals, but they're able to, like you said, be gentle on themselves, have this kind of like, hey, that's in the past, and what can I do now? And so having, I think, both ideas in your head at the same time is a really good ability. And again, it's like you keep talking about, a good ability to try and foster in ourselves and recognize, like, yeah, I didn't do this, and here we go, and I'm going to train that like anything else. So another really interesting question from Chrissy Elder here. How would you describe your relationship with your coach and your teammates when it relates to your goals and achieving them? So that's, at the end of the day, we're playing a team sport, and some of the goals that you might have for you as an individual are dependent, maybe entirely on, what these other people on your team are doing. How do you integrate personal goals with team goals and communicate that in a good way, or at least represent that in a good way? That's a great question, Chrissy.
Yeah, that is a great question. And Chris, I'd love to hear your thoughts after this as well.
Yeah.
But for me, I think it's okay to have, like, let's say I'm trying to make this really tangible. My goal is to be the best setter in the state. So I want to, and of course, if we're competing, everybody wants to play, most likely. I want to be the starting setter. But all of a sudden now I'm on a team where there's a setter that's better than me. So now the team goal is to win, but my goal is to play. And now she's compromising mine, right? So I think when it comes to these situations, it is a team sport. And so it's okay to want to be the best that you can be and to keep striving and to push that other player. But ultimately, the team comes before what we want individually. And I think, again, we're talking about like duality today a lot, but it's the same thing. You can have both. And if I was coaching, I would want an athlete to want both. And when I've been benched, which I have a lot in my career, that was the coaches were like, hey, this is awesome. I like that you're mad. I like that you're pissed, but you've got to be a great teammate first. And you can still help the team doing this. And so ultimately playing time, for example, is outside of our control. So then as an athlete, my goal might shift. My goal might change of, well, I'm not the starting setter now, but I can do these things to help my team win. And the vision, I'm helping my team pursue our best, become the best in the world, so we can ultimately help kids believe in what's possible or whatever that might be. That doesn't change. So again, I think goals, you can be rerouted sometimes because of what you want changes, sometimes because of the team, but we still kind of pursue that ultimate vision, if you will. So does that answer the question, Chris?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think
that's how I think about it.
Yeah, I think it's important to note and to understand, as a volleyball player, this is what you've signed up for. You are in a team sport. And if you don't like that, if you'd rather be in a different sport, go find an individual, go play tennis, go play golf, go run track, go do something where the success is entirely dependent on you and what you do. But you are in a team sport, and being able to recognize that the best thing that you can do is contribute to the success of the team. Man, that makes your life as an athlete and your life as a teammate and somebody that's being coached so much better and so much easier. And I think, it's interesting to note too, that if you approach it from that perspective, all right, I'm going to set goals because I'm part of a team. What can I do individually to make my team completely successful, to be the best possible teammate that I can be? And so a big part of what you can do individually is make yourself the best volleyball player you can become. And that, involves all these kind of individual and personal things. But at the same time, you also have to be thinking from a perspective of team. And so individually, I want to become the best I can possible, but I also have to have some kind of sense of this is what's making my team better. And if you becoming better as an individual comes at the cost of the team, then we're missing the boat. We've got the wrong goals and you've got the wrong priorities. And so just understand that the best way to have individual success and for you to reach the goals that you have for yourself as an individual is to figure out how to make your team as good as it can possibly be. And a lot of that is make yourself as good as you can, but it also is inspiring teammates. It's also being incredibly coachable. It's also living with some of these decisions that, as Courtney refers to, are outside of your control. But I think, that's a mature perspective that's really hard to develop. And I don't know that I certainly didn't have that as a high school athlete. I don't even know that I had it as a college athlete. I didn't, do a good job thinking that way. And it takes a while to kind of come into that. But I think the earlier that you can recognize that and develop that feeling, that sense, man, people will love to play with you, and you'll see the teams that you're a part of will really have great success.
Yeah. And it always comes back to help you.
Yep.
Like I can't honestly think of one situation in all of my volleyball experience where somebody committed to like helping the team be better and didn't benefit from it. Not one. So it's just wanted to throw that out there. It's going to come back and serve you well if you're giving to the team.
Yep. Here's another, you mentioned this a little bit, but maybe let's get into it a little bit more because I think it's really valuable. How would you help a team get back on track after not achieving an outcome goal, especially if there's some season left remaining? So, hey, we want to win the conference championship, and we've gotten to the point where, hey, look, we're not going to win this because there isn't a playoff, and we're too far behind in the standings, and there's 5 matches left. But even if we win them all, we're not winning the conference championship. Mm-hmm. How do you kind of get a team back focused and stay motivated in that environment?
Yeah, I think it starts early. It starts before you're in that moment, because if we're as a coach, as a team, let me start by saying I like winning more than losing. It's way more fun. But I'm much more concerned, and the best coaches I've played for are more concerned with like, can we be our absolute best? Like, how good can our team be? And so learning becomes the compass, and this like constant pursuit of finding more within and being able to compete with all of that in any environment. That's like the goal, right? So it's kind of like what you're chasing. And the best coaches I've played for know that we all want to win. We all want to get that thing. But what's going to help us get there is focusing on being our best every single day and all of these things that we can control. Because this is going to happen to every team except for one. They're going to try to win, and they're not going to. So then what do we do in those moments? And if our language and our culture is about really pursuing our best, that doesn't change when we don't get the ultimate goal. It's harder, right? Yeah, this is cruddy. we spent a lot of time investing in trying to win and we didn't. What are we going to be about now? And that's kind of a bigger question as a coach is what are we actually trying to teach these athletes, you know? And to me, if it's just about winning, we're missing this opportunity to talk about, man, life's not always easy. And so much of it is dictated by how we respond when we don't get what we want. So it can be sad. We can be really bummed, and we should be if we've invested that much. But it's like, okay, what a great opportunity to adjust and to figure out what we're really, really made of. And so I think as a coach, it's like, one, have we had those conversations up front? And do you know, as a coach, really what you hope most for your athletes? And I hope that it's not just winning. I doubt any of us would say that. But then what are we doing language-wise and question-wise and feedback-wise to make sure we're hitting both of those, so that when we hit that moment, it's not like this panic, like, oh, the whole season's over, you know? So that's and then in the moment, I guess, so there's work up front, and then in the moment, it's like honoring that it's crappy and it's sad and it's a bummer, and this is how it should feel when you invest this much. But really, now what are we going to do now? And what a beautiful opportunity to stay together, to help each other, to do something that's really difficult, because at the end of the day, no one can give somebody that, no one can take it away, whether you win or lose. You know, like how you're showing up to each moment is what, I don't know, what makes us who we are. So that's how I would answer that.
Yeah. You know, it just makes me think we lost the 2013 national championship match. And I was devastated. I didn't sleep for a month. I was emotionally just a complete disaster. It was maybe one of the most emotionally challenging times of my life. And, you know, reflecting back on that, as we talk now, and I talk with the boys and the guys that were on that team and our staff, you know, the pain of that has kind of faded to some degree. And the things that kind of, for me, are meaningful were just how hard we all worked together and how much I love those guys, and just what a bunch of great guys they were, and how special that team was. And the kind of the grind and the I don't know, just all of the ups that we had during that season, because, you know, if you're going to get to a final, you're going to have a lot of really great ups along the way as well. And so for me, it was really hard, like you said, and recognizing, you know, anytime you're that invested in something and it doesn't happen, it's going to crush you. And just knowing that and recognizing that, and then, but kind of, for us, you know, as I look back now, we had this kind of larger meaning to all of that. And the winning and losing, like you talk about, was outside of our control. Another team was better. And, but at the end of the day, this bigger vision of just, you know, working towards something and being there, and the relationships, man, some huge meaning for us there. Mm-hmm. Jeremy Casebeer asks, if you could give advice to your 15 and then 25-year-old self, what would that be in volleyball or in life? And so let's look at it from the perspective of kind of this vision and goals. If you could sit 15-year-old Courtney down and talk about, you know, hey, here's some things that might help you or might better steer you with some long-term vision at 15, and then maybe post-college kind of stuff. Life or volleyball, what do you think looking back? And I these kind of questions, I think to some degree are hard because, you know, I like this kind of stoic view of things where it's like, look, whatever I did at that point brought me to where I'm at, you know, like the failures and the dumb choices that I made and all the mess ups and all the bad decisions. Well, at least, you know, they brought me to where I'm at now. And, but to some degree, you know, it'd be nice if you kind of had some wisdom that maybe you could say, hey, 15-year-old self, maybe think about this. Yeah, I agree. I think as a younger athlete, it's just, well, anyone, I think as humans, we're traditionally really poor at predicting happiness. So for me, I always was like, oh, well, when I win state, then I'll be like, I got it. When I get a scholarship or when I win a national title. And I
I mean, I've always loved the process. Like I'm a huge nerd for like gear and working out and nutrition. Like I loved all of it. But I would say, I would tell myself when I was 15 that like, there's this, it's really powerful and really fun in life to be completely committed to something. And it's rare and it's unique. And like Chris just said, when you can do that for yourself and when you can do it with a group, I don't know that there's anything like it. Like, I don't know, we don't know what's going to happen, but we're committing. And life is like this huge picture. And we're just going to be like, we're going to commit to trying to side out, you know, to be the best in the country. Like, I don't know why, but this is going to be fun. And it's so cool. But there's never a moment when you will reach a goal and just think, cool, I got it now. Now I'm going to relax. Even if you're an Olympian, even if you're a medalist, you know? And so that took me a long time to learn. I think I kept chasing something as far, you know, and thinking like, oh, then I'm going to be chilling, you know? And so there's, I don't know how to articulate that. It would be something like, you know, be in the moment and know that like, this is the, let me say this better. Kind of when I think the two best feelings as an athlete is like when you have a really true process, right? So you're taking it day by day, you're with a team like Chris was talking about, and then you win. And it's like this epic moment, right? And it doesn't last very long. And so as Chris was saying, at some point, the highs of winning and the lows of losing wear off. And what you're left with is kind of, what did I do in the pursuit of that? Which is like 98% of our lives, pursuing something, hopefully with other people that we like. So I think I would remind myself that like, this is the good part, is the day to day, and there's ups and downs, and it's all part of it. And there will always be ups and downs. So get good at managing them because they're not going anywhere. And so the better that you manage those, the more fun you're going to have. Now I'm telling myself a lot of things I wish I would have known, but that's probably the biggest one.
Yeah.
Or the biggest 10.
I think for me, the thing that I would like to communicate to most 15-year-olds is just the fact that the outcomes that they can pursue are almost always bigger than what they think. The goals that they set for themselves, or the vision that they have for themselves, these outcomes or these ideas of the kind of future that they project, is way short of what is actually possible. And so I wish that they would understand what's possible is oftentimes massive. It's huge. It's this kind of thing that like you think, no way, that couldn't be me. Yes, it could be you. And having these really, really outsized big ideas, I think, is really important. And then understanding the power of driving back to daily choices and weekly choices, and just what's possible if you make consistent, good choices every single day, every single week, with the understanding that, yeah, we're going to have some bad days, but what's possible is way beyond what most of us think. And I mean, I know you had some big visions for yourself as a kid, but you know, I see people constantly settling for less just because they don't see it. And so that would be the thing that I would tell, you know, maybe even my 15-year-old self, is the things that you dream of accomplishing for yourself need to be bigger. And you can get it done if you'll make good choices and stick to this kind of process day in and day out.
Yeah, I love that.
How about 25-year-old self? Any great advice there?
Probably the same. Yeah, I don't think I would change it.
Okay. Chris Elsner asks, hi, Chris, by the way, do you have any books that have been influential on training your mind?
Yeah, there's a book called The Way of a Champion by Jerry Lynch, and I can't pronounce the other author's name. I think it's a kind of a workbook. So it's a lot of this stuff. I read it actually for the first time after the London Olympics. So some of it's a little bit elementary, but I mean, I worked through it when I was 27, and it made a nice impact for me because it's kind of like a daily drip of these concepts. Like you go through one chapter a week, you answer some questions, much like what we've done here in the last kind of 2 sessions. And then it's like, okay, I'm just going to commit to this for a week. So I like that one a lot. That's probably the book I give away the most. I think regarding kind of these inevitable challenges that we were talking about, the book The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday is a nice one. It's a quick read. He's kind of got this like stoic view, or he talks about stoicism. And so it's this really pragmatic way of looking at moving, pursuing our best and dealing with challenges. So that's always like a good refresher for me. So those are the two I give away the most.
Yeah, I would say doing some research into stoicism is there are a lot of good books on that, but that's a really good kind of path to start getting better at these ideas. There have been a lot of questions asked that kind of go back to some of the material that you talked about earlier, and there are just enough questions that I think it wouldn't be a bad idea. But the idea is there a good way to practice mental toughness? We've had a bad moment in a match. How do we get back on track? I'm down. How do I get up? Kind of stuff. And you talked about that earlier in some of your other sessions, but maybe just kind of revisit that again. It's during a game when you mess up and start feeling down about yourself, how do you stay positive and keep going? That idea has come up in a number of the questions that we have.
Okay. So for me, it's just like a technical skill. So if I was getting aced in a game and I was like, I don't want to have that happen again, what I'm going to do is in practice, I'm going to train something specifically that's going to help me not get aced, right? I'm going to train my platform, and then I'm going to get reps at doing it. And so I'm going to get so good at this that when I'm in the game, now I feel confident I can execute it. And training mindset is no different. So if I were to ask you, have you ever had a game or a practice where you didn't make a mistake? No, everyone says no, right? It's impossible. So that being said, in practice, what is your response when you make a mistake? Are you curious? Are you like, oh, okay, I wonder what I could do better? Probably more so, because there's less consequence than in a game. And it's about learning, and that's kind of our focus. And so in practice, we can train our response to errors to be not positive, not like, yeah, this is great. Like, I'm not giggling. It's like, what's productive now? And can I learn, and how can I improve this? And so like in training, there's usually, depending on your coach, at the beginning, something that's more technical, right? So we're focused on movement patterns and eye work and all of these things that we're thinking about that are really technical. And then maybe at the end of practice, we're competing. And so there's still a little bit of technique we're thinking about, but we're also in this mindset of like, this is how I'm playing in a game. And the more that we can create that environment as a coach or as a player, like putting yourself in a game-like mindset, and the more that we can train this, so that when you're in the game, it's like, oh, I've done this before. So instead of, so that's one way, is like, can I train my mindset to be productive in practice? And then so that when I get in the game, it's the same thing. And then when I make a mistake, to me, I like to think about it this way. If you imagine the best game you've ever played and maybe the worst game you've ever played, what's likely to be different is how you responded when you made errors. So when you played your best, and you got aced, it was like, oh, dang it. Okay, guys, I got the next one. Oh, I totally know what I did there. I can't wait we're going to set out and help, like whatever. We just move on. And so we're thinking really productively, and we're not getting like emotional about the error. I'm not kicking a volleyball. I'm not letting that error affect the next 3 plays, right? And if you think about your worst game, you're probably like, oh God, and we're having a thought that's really negative, like, shoot, I hope I don't get served again. Is my coach going to take me out? I can't believe I just did that. I always did that. I've been and we go down this negative train of thoughts. And so to me, it's really about how quickly can we get to a thought that's productive, right? And we can train that in practice so that in the game, it's the same thing. Okay. Easier said than done, but that's the idea.
Well, and that's like you talk about, it's just the only way to get good at it is to rep it consistently. Yeah. And understanding that, hey, we're going to have some bad days too. We're going to have some days where we kick the volleyball and, and you can recognize, all right, that wasn't a good solution here. What's a better choice? And next time I'm not going to kick it. I'm going to do this, and getting those reps. And I think that's one of the things that players don't recognize is the power in getting, productive reps in practice with the mental skills. And they expect that just, hey, I'm going to be confident, or I'm going to have a good attitude in the match. No, you're not. That isn't how your mind wants to go to worst case scenarios, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't want to always be, oh, okay, forget about that. Hey, let's move on. Your mind wants to do the other thing. It wants to go, oh, you know what? I'll probably get ace the next time. And then guess what happens? Then we're going to lose the match. And then my parents will hate me and they'll kick me out and I'll have to live in a dumpster, and it's like, gosh, why does my mind do that? Well, because that's where it wants to go naturally. So you got to kind of get these reps of forcing yourself into better mental decisions and better mental ideas as time goes on. So yeah. Let's see. Kind of slightly off topic, but I think one that it comes up interestingly. Let's say that you've got goals for yourself and visions for yourself that maybe, like you talked about, there's somebody that maybe there's a role on the team that needs filling that's filled better by somebody else, but you want to be there. How do you manage this idea of, I'm going to play the role that's asked of me, but at the same time, I'm going to I have bigger visions for myself. How do you strike that balance?
Yeah. I think understanding, and I'm a broken record here, but coming back to like, what can you do to influence the situation? So playing time is the easiest one to talk about. Like, I'm not the starting setter and I want to be the starting setter. And can I have a conversation with my coach and saying like, what are the things that I need to do to earn the right to play more? Right. And so now I've become really pragmatic about these things. And then can I do all of those and also be a really great teammate to the player that's playing? Because the team is more important than my immediate experience in this setting, because we've chosen to play a team sport. So for me, I used to tell Alicia Glass, who sat over me, and she was a starter the whole 4 years of, leading up to the Rio Olympics and in Rio. And I told her, I was like, look, my goal is to be the best setter in the world. But if I can't be, then I hope you are, because that means I'm pushing you every single day. And I love you. I want you to be the best you can be. But I also want to be the best I can be. And so you can want both. You can compete with someone in a way that's like, I care about you, so I'm going to do my best to beat you, and she's going to do the best to beat me. And all of a sudden it's like, here we go. And when she's in the game, we won world champs as she was the starting setter. I am so happy for her, because I know what she's done to get there. And I've also left everything I had out on the court. And so I don't think it has to be one or the other. Like, the true definition of competing is to strive with others. It's not, I hope she fails so I get to go up. It's not this. It's like, can she play her best? Can I play my best? And that's going to make all of us better. So whether that's an opponent or within your team, I think that's really important. And then, but ultimately, what do you do in those moments when you don't get what you want or the role? It's like, okay, this is the reality now. These are the options. What's the next best one? Well, I'm going to prepare like I'm a starter. I'm going to watch video. I'm going to be a good teammate. I'm going to do everything in my mind as if I'm starting this match. But here I am on the bench. And then these are the things I can do on the bench. I'm going to make sure I'm connected. So if I go in the game, I'm prepared. I'm going to give feedback to my setter if she wants it. I'm going to cheer my teammates on, like all of those things. So to me, it's like, prepare for the job that you want, and then control what you can to make the most of each day, whatever your role is.
Yeah. Cora, I just think the idea that you have about, just the idea of competition is largely to see how good you can become. And, that idea, if I can kind of live with that, I'm going to see how good I can become. And at some point, it's really rare that there isn't somebody better.
Yeah.
If you're maybe the best player on your team in high school, that doesn't mean you're going to be the best player on your team in college. And if you're the best player on your team in college, that doesn't mean you're going to be the best player on your pro team or the national team or whatever. And so the idea of, I have to have this role, I think if that's your mindset, it's going to be hard for you. And it's going to create a lot of mental agony. It's going to create a lot of emotional distress. But the idea of, I'm going to become as good as I can be. And what does that look like? And what's the process of getting there? That's where true satisfaction lies. And at some point, it's really rare that somebody isn't better. and then you have to kind of go back to these bigger ideas of team, like you talked about. That's good. A question that that came up from Aurora. If you're a spiker and the setter is bad, then how can you get better as a spiker? And Aurora, there are no bad setters, so we're going to skip that question. Yeah, there are no bad setters. Come on, they're bad hitters, but there are no bad setters. We know that, right, Court? Yeah. So we're skipping Aurora's question and moving on. How do you reignite the fire for yourself as an athlete if you've had multiple failed seasons? And again, we're coming back to maybe some ideas that you've talked about, but let's say you're a program that's had kind of a bunch of bad seasons. Let's say we've gone below 500 for, this is the story of our high school. What do the goals look like? What does the vision look like for that kind of team, for that kind of program? How do you start re-establishing standards, or at least what does the vision look like for somebody that's been in a situation where, let's say, by measurable standards, it's been largely unsuccessul?
Yeah, I really like what you just said, Chris, about about the pursuit of being our absolute best, right? And if that's really the goal, then we can, I'm much more concerned with moving the needle. And I like that phrase because it resonates with me. So however you would choose to say that as a coach or as a team, what is the phrase of I just want to move the needle this way? And if I am getting better, whether it's a tiny, tiny thing or a big thing, I am celebrating the crap out of it. So for me, when I think of thoughts or phrases that I say as a coach or as a player I have, are they expansive or do they make me want to contract, right? And the thought of oh God, we've had a losing season the last 3 years, or we're so far below 500, there's no way we can make state or districts or playoffs. All of those are overwhelming. So I am coming in hot as a coach and a player of really clear on, I want us to see how good we can be. And all of these other thoughts about comparing to last year or comparing to other teams is really doing us a disservice, because it's energy spent on things other than what we can do. So I would dive much more into the process. I would make sure I was really well recovered, because it is hard to bring energy when we're exhausted. And also we lose energy. We burn through resources quickly when we're focused on these things outside of our control. So not only is it sleeping and eating and exercising well, it's thinking well is one way that we can recover. So, and then I would just be obsessive about the process. And what I didn't say earlier about goals is when you hit process goals, man, I would celebrate it like nobody's business, and help my team understand that all of our energy is going into that. And I don't know that if we do that, we wouldn't have some sort of improvement. I think there's no magic. And so if we can really invest in the process, we're going to get better, and let all of the outcomes take care of themselves, and just be day to day, really black and white about that. That'd be my approach, Chris.
Yeah, great. Well, we're butting up on the time that we need to wrap up. What kind of parting thoughts do you have for us?
Man, I don't know. I'm just excited and honored to be in this with you guys. And I love Chris's thought of let's commit as a community here to play in the space of what's possible, and often I think we're stronger than we give ourselves credit for, and why not really go for something and stay true to the process. So dream big. I think that sounds fluffy, but really let's think about what's possible for you, even if it's hard, even if it's uncomfortable. And then can we take it one day at a time and be in that? And we're, Chris and I and Dave and everyone here at Gold Medal Squared we have so much fun having these conversations and getting to be a part of everyone's pursuit of their best, because we know how amazing it can be, much beyond winning and losing. So I don't know. I just feel grateful to be here with you guys. We're excited. We hope that we get to continue being in it with you, and we just wish you the best.
Yeah. Well, thanks again, everyone. And just a reminder, next week, we're going to have a series of video lessons on exercising at home and some ideas on nutrition. And there'll be some archives, and we'll have another live Zoom session with Mitch Sadowski that's talking about those ideas and answer your questions there. And so, hey, Court, thanks again so much for your time and for all your thoughts. And thanks again, everyone, for joining us. And we wish you all the best. Have a great end of your week, and we look forward to talking to you again soon.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. See ya.